I still remember that moment as if it were a lightning strike in slow motion. My wife's soft confession, delivered in a voice devoid of the warmth I once knew, echoing in the quiet of our living room. I've fallen out of love. In those first 100 seconds, every dream we'd woven together unraveled, leaving behind only a raw, aching emptiness. I was stunned into silence, my heart shattering as I tried to grasp a truth I couldn't comprehend. Little did I know, in the painful weeks that followed, I would unearth a secret double life, a hidden existence that would shatter the very foundations of our shared past. For nearly 12 years, I had believed our marriage was an unwavering fortress of love, built on mutual sacrifice, tender memories, and shared ambitions. My wife, Caroline, had been my confidant, my partner in every laugh and tear, and the mother of our two beautiful children. We'd built a life together, filled with quiet evenings, long walks, and whispered promises of forever. I trusted her completely. I trusted every smile, every gentle touch, and never suspected that behind her compassionate eyes, there lay a secret world I was never meant to see. At first, the change was almost imperceptible. Caroline began working longer hours and excusing herself with vague reasons that I attributed to career demands. I noticed a subtle distance in her voice during our evening conversations and a reluctance to share details about her personal time. I dismissed these as the natural ebbs and flows of a long-term relationship. After all, we were both caught in the relentless tide of daily routines and responsibilities. I convinced myself that love sometimes grows quiet and that silence too could be comforting. Then, one chilly autumn evening, everything began to shift. I returned home earlier than usual from a late meeting, eager to surprise her with dinner and a warm embrace. The house was unnervingly still, a silence so profound that it seemed to swallow the familiar creaks and hums of our home. As I walked through the dim hallway, a chill crept over me. In our shared study, on a shelf where I kept old photo albums and mementos, I found a small leather-bound diary that I had never seen before. Its cover was unmarked, but something about it sent a shiver down my spine. I took it home that night, hesitantly opening its pages, and began to read. The diary was a confession, a secret chronicle of a life Caroline had led behind my back. In its raw, unfiltered entries were details of clandestine meetings, unfamiliar names, and descriptions of events that painted a picture of a parallel existence. There were mentions of dinners at upscale restaurants I had never heard her mention, of vacations to exotic locales, and of a man whose name appeared repeatedly, a man who was not me, and who belonged to a world of opulence and thrill that I had never been a part of. With each line I read, my heart sank deeper into despair. The words on those pages confirmed what I had begun to suspect from the subtle clues in her behavior. Caroline had been living a double life. The discovery left me numb and shattered. I spent that night in a haze, rereading the diary over and over, trying to piece together the timeline of her secret life. How long had this hidden existence gone on? Had I been a mere spectator in the background of her real life? My mind raced with questions and doubts. Every cherished memory, our wedding day, the first time I held our child, quiet moments spent together in the soft glow of candlelight, now felt tainted as if those moments had been built on lies. I felt betrayed not only as a husband but as a man whose entire identity had been intertwined with the woman I thought I knew. In the days that followed, I confronted Caroline. I gathered all the evidence, diary entries, text messages, and even photographs from her secret social media account that I had painstakingly discovered, and arranged a confrontation in our living room, a space that had once been the heart of our shared happiness. My voice trembled as I asked, "Caroline, how could you? Why did you lead this double life?" For a moment, the room was filled with a heavy, suffocating silence, broken only by the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Her eyes, once so full of love and promise, now reflected an overwhelming sorrow and a guarded secret. She tried to explain that she felt lost, that the routine of our life had made her feel trapped, and that she had sought freedom in a world she believed offered her more. But her words were hollow, unable to mend the vast chasm that now separated us. In that heart-wrenching confrontation, the truth was laid bare. Caroline had indeed built a second life, one that included a network of people, events, and even another family that I had never known existed. As the reality of her betrayal crashed over me, I felt the weight of 1,000 unspoken words and a future that had been ripped away from me. I was left to grapple with the unbearable knowledge that the woman I loved had been living two lives, one with me and one that was entirely her own. The shock was unbearable, and in the days that followed, I sank into a deep, relentless melancholy. I questioned everything: my judgment, the authenticity of our shared moments, and even my own worth. How could I have been so blind to the signs? Was our love nothing more than a facade? The answers eluded me, leaving only a vast emptiness where trust and love once resided. I turned to therapy, desperate to find a way to process the betrayal that had shattered my entire world. In the quiet of my sessions, I poured out every painful detail, the discovery of the diary, the hidden texts, and the heartbreaking realization of her double life. My therapist, with her gentle, unwavering compassion, helped me see that sometimes, the truth is a bitter medicine, one that, though painful, can pave the way to a new beginning. You must learn to rebuild your sense of self, she told me. Your worth is not defined by someone else's betrayal. Her words, though they couldn't erase the pain, began to plant the seeds of hope. In the solitude of my long, sleepless nights, I vowed to reclaim my life piece by piece. I gathered the fragments of our shared history, photographs of happier times, mementos of our love, and placed them in a box, a symbolic attempt to preserve what once was, even as I faced the harsh reality that it was gone forever. I resolved that I would not let this betrayal destroy me. Instead, I would let it transform me, forcing me to confront my deepest vulnerabilities and emerge stronger. Now, as I stand at the threshold of a future that is irrevocably altered by her secret, I feel a mixture of sorrow, anger, and a cautious, flickering hope. The journey ahead is uncertain, filled with painful memories and unanswered questions, but I know that I must move forward, for myself and for our children who deserve a life built on truth and resilience. Every scar is a silent testament to the hurt I have endured, yet it also speaks of a strength that I never knew I possessed. I begin the arduous process of healing, determined to rebuild a future that is entirely my own, one where trust is earned and love is defined by honesty. This is where part 1 ends, a chapter of shattered illusions, searing betrayal, and a painful farewell to the woman I once believed I knew. The secret of her double life has left me reeling, questioning everything I thought was real. And as I take my first tentative steps into an uncertain tomorrow, I vow to unearth the truth, reclaim my identity, and build a life from the ruins of our broken dreams. I woke one cold morning with a heavy heart and a mind forever haunted by that devastating revelation. The echoes of betrayal still reverberated in every silent corner of our once shared home. In the weeks after I exposed the truth about her double life, after I watched the diary spill secrets of another family and saw the evidence of a life I never knew existed, she vanished without a word. The silence she left behind was as crushing as her lies, and for months, I wandered through our empty rooms, each step weighted by grief and disbelief. In those first agonizing days I felt like I was drowning in memories. Every familiar object, a faded family photograph on the mantel, the handwritten notes tucked away in the kitchen, the worn-out sofa where we had once shared dreams, all became relics of a love that was nothing more than a fragile illusion. I questioned everything. How could the woman I loved harbor a secret so vast? Had I been so blind, so entirely consumed by the comfort of routine, that I failed to see the signs? I replayed our life together over and over, searching desperately for a moment that might have hinted at this betrayal. Instead, I found only emptiness, as if the very foundation of trust had been eroded away. Desperation pushed me to seek solace in the only place I hadn't yet turned to, therapy. I began attending sessions with Dr. Evelyn Carter, a gentle yet perceptive counselor whose calm voice and empathetic gaze slowly helped me navigate the labyrinth of my shattered heart. Betrayal leaves scars, she explained during one session, but those scars, painful as they are, remind us that we survived. They can be the very evidence of your strength. Her words, though initially distant, gradually seeped into me. I learned to articulate the flood of emotions in my journal, every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of numb despair. Page after page, I recorded the raw, unvarnished truth of my pain, as well as tentative steps toward healing. Writing became an act of defiance against the betrayal, a declaration that I would not allow this darkness to define the rest of my life. As I confronted the enormity of the loss, I also had to face a harsh reality. The life I had believed in was irretrievably gone. Yet amid the wreckage, a small ember of resilience began to glow. I resolved to reclaim my identity, not as the broken husband, but as a man capable of forging a new future. I started by re-examining the very spaces where our memories lived. I rearranged the living room, painting the walls in soft, hopeful hues. I gathered photographs that once told the story of our union and placed them in a box marked Memories, a symbolic act to honor the past without allowing it to tether me to the pain. Work became my anchor during those tumultuous months. I immersed myself in projects with a fervor I hadn't known before. The steady cadence of deadlines, meetings, and the hum of office life provided a temporary escape from the relentless echo of betrayal at home. Colleagues noticed the quiet transformation in me, the way I carried myself with a new, determined posture. Every completed project, every small victory in the boardroom, was a reminder that I was still capable, that my worth was not measured by one person's deception. I began to take long, solitary runs in the early mornings. The cool air, the rhythmic pounding of my feet on the pavement, and the gradual lightening of the sky at dawn gave me moments of clarity. In those silent, introspective hours, I allowed my mind to sift through the sorrow and anger until a small, steady hope emerged. Each run was a meditation, a way to release the bitterness and reaffirm that I was still alive, still capable of joy. I started to realize that even the deepest wounds, however raw, could eventually begin to mend if I allowed myself to move forward. One evening, as winter's chill gave way to the tentative warmth of spring, I attended a support group for individuals who had experienced profound betrayal. There, I listened to others recount their stories, tales of shattered trust and eventual renewal. Their voices, heavy with pain yet laced with a resilient optimism, resonated deeply with me. I began to see that I was not alone in my suffering, that others too had risen from the ashes of betrayal to rebuild their lives. The support group became a sanctuary where vulnerability was met with compassion and where the courage to share one's truth was celebrated. In that circle, I found both validation for my pain and the inspiration to reclaim my own future. Yet, even as I took these steps, the memories of that fateful day would sometimes crash over me with a vengeance. Late at night, when the house was cloaked in darkness, I would hear the echo of her voice in my mind, the sound of her saying she'd fallen out of love, the cold finality of her departure. In those moments, the wounds felt raw and open, a bitter reminder of everything I had lost. But gradually, I learned to let the pain pass through me like a storm that eventually gives way to calm. I began to understand that healing is not about erasing the past but about learning to live with it, about transforming each scar into a testament of survival. In the midst of my personal rebuilding, I also began to unravel the mysteries of her secret double life. I gathered every scrap of evidence I could find, the hidden emails, the cryptic texts, even the photographs that revealed a second family I never knew existed. Each piece was a painful puzzle that forced me to confront a truth that I had once hoped would remain buried. I visited the neighborhood where she had built this alternate life, speaking quietly with neighbors who recalled seeing a different, happier version of her, a version that was as alien to me as a stranger's smile. Their recollections painted a picture of a woman who had long ago started to believe in a different future, one that did not include me or our children. That journey of discovery was as excruciating as it was illuminating. With each new detail, I felt the betrayal deepen, but I also began to see a pattern. A narrative of unmet needs, unspoken desires, and a relentless pursuit of a better life that ultimately left her more isolated than before. I questioned everything. Was our marriage truly as perfect as I had believed, or had I been living in a fragile illusion all along? The answers were elusive, wrapped in layers of regret and missed opportunities for honest communication. The more I uncovered, the more I realized that the path to healing lay in reclaiming not just my memories, but my entire identity. I began to rebuild my life from the ground up, restructuring our finances, re-establishing routines, and even venturing into new social circles. I started painting again, letting each brushstroke serve as an act of liberation from the past. I wrote essays and journal entries that captured the raw intensity of my journey, a journey that was as much about finding out who I was as it was about understanding what had been lost. I also devoted myself to my children, who, despite their tender age, sensed the deep fissures that now marked our family. I made it my mission to create an environment where they could feel safe, loved, and unburdened by the betrayal that had once threatened to tear us apart. We began new traditions, weekend picnics at a nearby park, storytelling sessions in the evenings, and quiet moments spent together that allowed us to forge new memories untainted by the past. Their smiles and laughter became the most powerful motivators for my own healing, reminding me that life, even in its darkest chapters, holds the promise of renewal. Time, relentless and unyielding, marched on. The pain of betrayal did not vanish overnight, but slowly, it softened. I learned that forgiveness is not an instantaneous act. It is a gradual process, a series of small choices made every day to let go of the bitterness and reclaim my power. I began to forgive not because I wanted to absolve her of her actions, but because I needed to free myself from the endless cycle of resentment. In one particularly quiet moment, I looked at my reflection in the mirror, a face marked by sorrow but also by a newfound strength, and I realized that I was no longer the man defined by betrayal. I was a survivor, a fighter who had weathered the storm and was ready to embrace a future that was mine to create. Then, one unexpected afternoon, I received a call from a mutual friend who had been tracking the aftermath of her disappearance. The friend's voice was heavy with news. Mara, as my wife was now known to some, had been seen leaving a small rundown community center on the outskirts of town. Rumors suggested that she had begun to piece together a new life, one that was starkly different from the glittering promises of the past. The news struck me with a mix of bitterness and a strange sense of closure. Though part of me still ached for the love we had lost, another part felt a cautious relief, as if the collapse of her alternate world finally balanced the scales of fate. That call, as unexpected as it was, forced me to confront the full arc of our tragic story. I realized that while she had once chased a better life at the cost of everything we shared, her pursuit had ultimately led her to a place of desolation and regret. In that moment, I understood that our paths were irrevocably diverged, her journey a testament to the dangers of chasing illusions, and mine a promise to rebuild from the wreckage with the hard-won wisdom of experience. Now, as I sit on the porch of my modest, newly reclaimed home, watching the sky shift from twilight to night, I feel a profound sense of quiet determination. The scars of betrayal remain, each one a silent reminder of the pain I endured, yet they no longer define me. I have risen from the ruins of deception, reclaiming not only my identity but also the hope that had seemed lost forever. Every sunrise is now a promise of renewal, a reminder that the future is built on the strength we muster after our darkest hours. This is my truth. I was once shattered by the revelation of a hidden double life, betrayed by the woman I loved. I endured the agonizing void of her disappearance, the relentless questioning of my worth, and the bitter sting of a future lost. But through the long, arduous journey of healing, through therapy, solitude, art, and the unwavering love of my children, I have rebuilt a new life, one defined by resilience, courage, and the quiet determination to rise above the past. I have learned that true healing is not the absence of pain, but the ability to transform that pain into a foundation for a brighter tomorrow. I choose to forgive, not for her sake but for mine, to liberate my soul from the shackles of resentment and to open my heart to new possibilities. The road ahead may still be fraught with challenges and the occasional echo of old wounds, but I now face it with a strength that was forged in the fires of betrayal. Every day as I step into the light of a new dawn, I remind myself that I am the architect of my own destiny. The man I once was, a man defined by shattered trust and broken promises, is no longer who I am. I have reclaimed my identity and built a future on the pillars of honesty, self-respect, and an unwavering belief in the power of renewal. Though the pain of the past will always be a part of me, it no longer controls my destiny. I have risen from the ruins, and with every new sunrise, I choose to live boldly, love deeply, and embrace the hope that tomorrow brings. I have transformed my anguish into strength, and every day is a testament to my resilience, a promise that even in the darkest of nights, a new dawn awaits.